You're probably ruining your automatic car without even knowing it. Small mistakes can lead to serious damage and expensive repairs. Many of these habits seem harmless, but over time they wear down your transmission, brakes, and engine. If you want to avoid a breakdown and save thousands in repair costs, stay tuned. Here are 15 things you should never do in an automatic car. Number 1. Shifting gears while the car is moving. Imagine you're in a hurry. You back out of a parking spot, and before the car fully stops, you shift straight into drive. It feels quick and harmless, but every time you do this, your transmission takes the hit. Instead of letting the brakes do their job, you force the transmission to absorb the car's momentum. Automatic transmissions aren't built for that kind of stress. The internal bands and clutches wear out faster, and if this becomes a habit, you could be looking at serious damage. Transmission repairs in Europe often cost thousands of euros, making them some of the most expensive car fixes. Modern gearboxes have safety features to prevent instant failure, but they can't stop long-term damage, even at low speeds, like shifting into drive while rolling at 10 kilometers per hour. You might feel the car lurch. That's a clear sign of stress on the system. Moreover, if you want to make the best car buying decision in 2025, check out our video, 4 worst and 5 best SUVs you can buy this 2025. Number 2. Coasting in neutral. Some drivers believe putting the car in neutral while going downhill saves fuel. That used to be true in older cars, but modern fuel-injected engines work differently. The moment you take your foot off the accelerator while in gear, the engine cuts fuel supply. But if you're in neutral, the engine still needs fuel to keep running. So instead of saving fuel, you're actually wasting it. That's not the only problem. Coasting in neutral also reduces control. You lose engine braking, which is what helps slow your car down without overusing the brakes. On steep roads, relying only on brakes can lead to overheating. If the brake fluid gets too hot, the brakes might stop working when you need them most. There's another risk. If you're in neutral and suddenly need to speed up, maybe to avoid a car swerving into your lane, you have to shift back into gear first. That tiny delay can be dangerous. Number 3. Revving the engine before shifting to drive. Some drivers love the sound of a revving engine. They start the car, press the gas in neutral, and then shift to drive. It might feel satisfying, but it's actually damaging the transmission. When you rev in neutral, the engine spins fast without resistance. The moment you shift into drive, all that energy slams into the transmission. This is called shock loading, and it wears out internal parts like clutches and gears much faster than normal. Over time, this can lead to rough shifting, slower acceleration, and expensive repairs. In Europe, replacing a damaged transmission can cost over 3,000 euro. There's another issue. Revving increases engine heat and oil pressure. If done too often, it can cause overheating and lubrication problems. Some modern automatic cars, especially those with dual clutch or torque converter systems, can also get confused by sudden RPM changes. That can make gear shifts feel jerky or delayed. Number 4. Driving with 2 feet. Some drivers think using both feet in an automatic car gives them better control. 1 foot for the gas, 1 for the brake. Sounds like a good idea, right? It's not. It actually makes driving more dangerous. Here's why. In a moment of panic, pressing both pedals at the same time is way more likely. The car won't know what you want, speed up or slow down. This can lead to sudden acceleration when you least expect it. A split-second mistake like that can cause an accident. Even if you don't press both pedals together, keeping your left foot on the brake can still cause problems. Light pressure, even unintentional, makes the brakes overheat and wear out faster. Overheated brakes won't work as well, and in a real emergency, they could fail. There's another issue too. If your brake lights are always on because your foot is resting on the pedal, other drivers might get confused. They won't know when you're actually stopping, which increases the risk of a rear-end crash. In Europe, road safety is a big deal. In 2022, 20,653 people lost their lives in road accidents. A lot of those were because of simple driver mistakes. Number 5. Leaving the car neutral at traffic lights. Some drivers shift to neutral at red lights thinking it helps the car, less strain on the engine, maybe even saves fuel, but that's not actually true. Modern cars are built to handle idling without a problem. Many have start-stop systems that automatically turn the engine off when you're stopped. If you manually shift into neutral, you're messing with a system designed to do the job for you. It's also a safety risk. If something happens, like a car coming at you from behind, you might need to move fast, but if the car is in neutral, you have to shift back into drive before you can go. That delay might cost you valuable seconds. Number 6. Engaging park before a full stop. Shifting into park before your car has fully stopped is one of the worst things you can do to your transmission. It's like trying to lock a moving door. Inside your transmission, a small metal part called the parking pawl locks the output shaft when you put the car in park. If If the car is still rolling, that tiny piece of metal takes all the force. Over time, it can snap, and once it breaks, fixing it isn't cheap. Some repairs require disassembling the entire transmission. That can cost thousands. Even worse, if the pawl is damaged, it might not hold your car in place when parked. If your car is on a slope, it could start rolling. A slight bump from another vehicle or a strong wind could send it moving. That's not just a repair bill, that's a serious accident waiting to happen. Number 7. Ignoring transmission fluid changes. Transmission fluid is what keeps your car shifting smoothly. It reduces friction, prevents overheating, and keeps everything working. But like engine oil, it doesn't last forever. Most car manufacturers recommend changing the transmission fluid every 60,000 to 100,000 kilometers, depending on how you drive. Some older cars were advertised with lifetime transmission fluid, but research shows that no fluid lasts forever. Over time, heat and friction break it down. If it's not replaced, shifting gets rougher, the transmission overheats, and eventually it fails completely. A new transmission can cost anywhere from €2,000 to €4,000 in Europe, but a simple fluid change, that's a fraction of the price. Signs that your transmission fluid needs changing include a burnt smell, a darker color, healthy fluid should be pink or clear, and worse fuel efficiency. If you drive in hot climates or heavy traffic, the fluid breaks down even faster. Number 8. Overloading the vehicle. Overloading your car might not seem like a big deal, but it puts stress on everything, your engine, brakes, and suspension, and it's not just bad for the car, it's dangerous. In Europe, driving with too much weight can get you fined €100 to €500 or more, depending on the country. But fines aren't the biggest problem. Overloaded cars take longer to stop. Studies show braking distance can increase by 20% when a car is carrying too much weight. If you need to stop suddenly, that extra distance could mean the difference between a close call and a crash. There's also real-world proof of how dangerous overloading can be. In 2019, a truck carrying 50 tons tried to cross a suspension bridge in Mirepoix-sur-Tarn, France. The bridge was only rated for 19 tons. The weight was way too much, and the bridge collapsed, killing 2 people. Even for everyday driving, carrying too much weight wears out your tires faster and increases fuel consumption by up to 10%. If you're ever unsure, check your car's gross vehicle weight rating, GVWR, which is listed on a sticker inside the driver's door or in the owner's manual. Number 9. Ignoring dashboard warning lights. When a dashboard warning light comes on, it's easy to ignore. Maybe you assume it's not urgent. Maybe you're worried about the cost of fixing it, but ignoring it can lead to something much worse. In Europe, nearly 50% of drivers admit to ignoring warning lights for days or even weeks. That's a huge risk. Taking the oil pressure warning as an example, if this light comes on and you don't act fast, the engine could seize. Fixing that can cost over €5,000. The transmission temperature warning is another big one. If your transmission overheats, repairs can cost thousands. Most modern cars in Europe have OBD2 diagnostic systems, which generate error codes when something goes wrong. A simple OBD2 scanner, costing around €50 to €100, can tell you exactly what the issue is before it turns into a major repair. Number 10. Pushing too hard in cold weather. Winter mornings can be brutal, especially in Europe where temperatures often drop below freezing. You start your car, eager to get moving, but hitting the gas right away is one of the worst things you can do. When a car sits in the cold, the engine oil and transmission fluid become thick. They need time to warm up before they can properly lubricate moving parts. Without that lubrication, metal components grind against each other, causing excessive wear. Studies show that most engine damage happens within the first 5 kilometers of a trip. Cold starts also lead to a higher emission, since the catalytic converter and diesel particulate filter don't work efficiently at lower temperatures. Experts recommend letting your car idle for about 30 to 60 seconds before driving. Start off slow, allowing the engine and transmission to warm up naturally. If you drive too aggressively right away, you risk damaging the engine, increasing emissions, and shortening your car's lifespan. Number 11. Power braking. Some drivers press the brake and accelerator at the same time to launch their car quickly from a stop. It might seem like a fun trick, but it's actually one of the fastest ways to ruin your transmission. Automatic cars use a torque converter to transfer power from the engine to the wheels. When you press both pedals at once, the torque converter overheats almost immediately. Transmission fluid loses its ability to lubricate properly, and critical components like clutches and gears start wearing out faster. Modern cars have built-in safety features that reduce throttle response when they detect power braking, but older models don't. If you keep doing this, you could end up with a complete transmission failure, which is one of the most expensive repairs a car can need. Instead of risking thousands in repairs, accelerate smoothly and avoid unnecessary stress on the transmission. Number 12. Resting your hand on the gear selector. Many drivers develop the habit of resting a hand on the gear selector while driving. It seems harmless, but in reality it can lead to serious transmission problems over time. Automatic gear selectors are connected to internal parts like selector forks and control rods. These parts are designed for brief movements, not constant pressure. When you rest your hand on the gear selector, even with light pressure, it causes unnecessary wear and can eventually lead to misaligned gears or even a complete shift mechanism failure. Safety is another issue. European driving regulations emphasize keeping both hands on the wheel for better control. If an emergency happens, having one hand on the gear selector reduces your ability to react quickly. Instead, use the armrest or keep both hands on the steering wheel to avoid unnecessary wear and improve your control on the road. Number 13. Driving through deep water. Flooded roads are more dangerous than they look. Many European cities deal with flash floods, and in 2023 alone, flood-related road damage cost around €230 million. Driving through deep water can easily destroy your engine and transmission, especially in automatic cars with low air intakes and transmission vents. If water enters the air intake system, it can cause hydrolock, a situation where water gets inside the engine cylinders. Unlike air, water can't be compressed. When the pistons try to compress it, they can bend, crack, or even snap. This kind of engine damage is often beyond repair. Even if water doesn't reach the engine, it can seep into electronic components located under seats or floorboards. This can lead to electrical failures and corrosion, which are expensive to fix. If you see standing water ahead, don't take the risk. Most cars can only handle about 4 inches of water before damage becomes a real possibility. Number 14. Driving on an empty tank. Running your car on low fuel isn't just an inconvenience. It can actually damage your fuel system. In automatic cars, the fuel pump sits inside the gas tank and relies on fuel for both cooling and lubrication. When the tank is low, the pump gets exposed to air, causing it to overheat and wear out faster. Over time, sediment from the bottom of the fuel tank gets pulled into the system, clogging fuel filters and injectors. This reduces engine efficiency and can lead to misfires. Many drivers don't realize that in colder climates, low fuel levels can also cause condensation inside the tank. This moisture can freeze the fuel lines, blocking the flow of gas to the engine. Number 15. Sudden acceleration and braking. Aggressive driving might feel exciting, but it's putting unnecessary stress on your automatic car. Unlike manual transmissions, automatics rely on hydraulic pressure and torque converters to shift gears. Sudden acceleration forces the transmission to work harder than necessary, which can overheat the fluid and wear down internal components. Hard braking is just as bad. It puts excessive pressure on brake pads and rotors, causing them to wear out faster. Overheated brake rotors can even warp, leading to uneven braking and reduced stopping power. European road safety laws have become stricter in recent years. In 2022, new cars were required to include autonomous emergency braking, AEB systems to reduce accidents. But aggressive driving can interfere with these safety features, making them less effective when you actually need them. Taking care of your automatic car isn't just about regular maintenance. It's also about avoiding bad driving habits that can lead to expensive repairs. A few simple changes can keep your transmission, engine, and fuel system running smoothly for years.